Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're joined by Katie Schumacher, who is author of the book Don't Press Send. It's a mindful approach to social media and education in cyber civics. She began doing this when she's seen the challenge of raising children who are growing up with social media as their primary means of communication. She is dedicated in assisting today's children to embrace the many positives in technology and steer clear from its pitfalls. Katie, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, this is an interesting world because I remember as I was looking on your website, Don't Press Send, that you say that parents weren't really prepared for this particular kind of technology and how to basically kind of help kids navigate their way through this where they can share and actually be kinder to people on the other side of the screen. Tell us about that.
Yes, I think that just like there's rules in our community and rules in our schools, they are conversing basically in a cyber community where there are no rules. And it lended itself to a level of unkindness. It also created a disconnect, an emotional disconnect because of the screen, because they don't see the eye contact. In our day, when we were growing up, if someone said something unkind to us, we saw the body language and we saw the hurt we were doing. And chances are we got a knot in our stomach and our empathetic skills were strengthened and we didn't do it. That's not what's happening. They're typing and they're walking away without any regard to the feelings. And many people have many, many followers. So it's not even just the one person. It's a public humiliation. So our children have to be extra careful what they put on technology and what they're writing, and learn they don't write things that they wouldn't say face-to-face.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm seeing children even as young as 2 years old holding these new famed cell phones here, and I think to myself, I think there should be a minimum age limit as to when these young children are actually able to pick up this technology. Tell us about some of the insights that you share in your book about this.
Well, I actually just started researching that aspect because my book is geared towards parents and educators to help today's child. But I also am in the supermarket and see these little 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds on these pads. And for me, as an observer, I see they're shutting down their world. When I had little children and we went to the grocery store, that was a whole day event. Oh, look at that tomato. No, that's not a tomato. That's an apple. And I opened up their world. And you watch it as a parent. When our children's noses at 2 and 3 years old are down at screens, we're closing their world, and we're, again, emotionally disconnecting them. We want to say hi to the grocer. We want to say hi to the people passing. We want to have them engage in a little smile and a little interaction because we're supposed to be connected to each other. The research, I have not done enough research as toddlerhoods, but my friends who are educators are saying that they now see an increase in speech services that are needed because when we were playing memory games with our children, we were talking, oh, where's that spider again? Oh, where's the apple? Oh, where's this? Now they're playing educational games, so parents think that they're playing educational games, and yes, they are learning and they're using their mind, but they're not speaking what they're learning. There's going to be we still don't know the impact of all of this technology, but we have to find its place. We have to see where it's good and where it's not. And it's very easy for young, busy parents or caregivers to put a device in front of a child to keep them occupied. It's convenient.
Right. I know I was watching a documentary, I believe it was called Gamers, and it was talking about what I guess they're called the MAA games. These are those reality games such as World of Warcraft. Mm-hmm. And what they were describing on there, and it was interesting, the people that actually play to what they considered a serious level, if you will, they said it really actually takes a lot more time commitment. If you're going to do this casually, you're only going to get so far, and your experiences aren't going to be as great as if you actually really invest the time. But they said it really comes at a price.
Oh, yeah.
These new games now, there is social interaction from people around the world. Mm-hmm. And it leaves me just astounded, scratching my head that people really buy into this reality. But, there it is. And the fact is they were saying, I remember one guy saying, he says, as I played this, intensely for 3 months, I found that it took me close to 6 months to regain my social skills. In other words, when I'm out in public, mixing with people, it took him time to get back to where he was socially speaking as a result of this game zapping all that away from him.
And this is an adult who knows the difference. But this is an adult who knows the difference. We're raising children to not know the difference. That concerns me. That they think that's a norm. At least an adult who says, oh, you know what, I got to find a better place. We all do it. We all are overconnected. And then you're like, wait, I was just reading Facebook for 20 minutes? Why? I have to catch myself. We all have an imbalance in our life where we want to, that's what my whole mission of my book and my program is that, look, technology is here to stay. This is not a fad. So it is imperative that we find its place. I love that I can order my groceries from my bed and they come to my house the next day. That's a wonderful thing. I love Xbox Live for my children who have cousins all over the country. At 4 o'clock, they go down my basement. They're playing FIFA with their cousin in Maryland and in Chicago and in D.C., and they're building friendships with their cousins that they wouldn't have. That's the positive. But when my child is bored and there's nothing to do and he goes down the basement and he wants to go play Xbox with strangers, no. You don't talk to people you don't know. That's where we have to set limits as parents and as educators too, where we can't allow them to be on their devices at lunchtime. When, some schools, they allow them to use their devices during lunchtime. No, that's when they should be socializing.
Right, exactly. And I'm of the same camp that you are, especially as you talk about in the book, the proper ways that you go about, if you're about to press send or post something, be very mindful about what you're doing. And we tend to post a lot of our interviews on YouTube. And, of course, you're going to get responses from people depending on if they actually listen to the show or the segment.
Right.
Now, astoundingly enough, I have to say that we have a really great ratio of about 95%, 90%, right, give or take, of people who like what we do versus people who don't, okay? Now, every once in a while, though, I get comments from people that tend to be pretty negative or, downright nasty. A lot of times what I do is I just flush those because my feeling is if this doesn't have anything to contribute to this thread, there's no reason to even have this on here.
Yes.
Now, it's funny when I sometimes will see things that tend to feel a little personal. So what I do is I go ahead and I put it all out there, and I type out what I'm going to say to them, even including maybe the feelings. And then before I send it, I step back and I think, okay, now how do I edit this down so this turns into a positive?
Yes.
Gives them the responsibility for what they posted in the first place.
That is exactly what my book says, is that you are actually being mindful because you are taking a mindful pause and you're not reacting. You're not impulsively reacting. You're responding. And that's what people need to do. Sometimes they don't even deserve a response. And then sometimes you say, you know what, I want them to know what they said is not okay. You're allowed to have your opinions, but there's a way to do it. Although I appreciate what you said, sir, I would prefer if it was written in a more constructive manner. So that if my program can serve more people, I would be happy to do that. But the way I received it, it was an attack. And for me, that is a climate that is toxic right now. And it is not a way that a civil society operates. I'm happy. Look, I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. If you want to tell me something constructively, I'll be happy to listen to you. If you're going to attack me, I'm not going to hear a word you have to say. Because I don't treat people that way, and I don't want to be treated that way.
Right. I find it interesting, too. Like I said, it's also about, since they, had produced the post that relates to something I've done, is that I put the responsibility back on them. For instance, that may have been a doctor who was talking about, how to basically control your blood pressure, let's say. Mm-hmm. And somebody will come out, oh, this doctor's full of blah, 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 and what that doctor is saying is this, this, and this, and take a look at that, and okay, well, now you've just spouted a couple of opinions here. Mm-hmm. What evidence do you have that anything that you're saying right now is true?
No,
now here's what's funny about that.
It's their soapbox.
Well, right, but here's what's interesting, though, because like we said, if you go and you argue with people, as you're saying, what you're going to get is an argument back, a fight back. And I mean,
Right.
geez, there seems to be unlimited energy that way. What I'm doing is putting the responsibility back onto them about their post. Okay, so
Yes.
you seem to be this expert. What evidence do you have that what you're saying right now in this thread is true, right? You know what's really astounding? When you do that, almost 100% of the time, you never hear from these people
Not
again.
another word. Can you please back that? Where did you have that information? And it's like anything. Everybody knows everything. I don't think you have a medical degree. So if you have a medical degree and you have the information to back that, please give me the information. If not, that's just your opinion. And your opinion is not fact.
Right.
That's an opinion. There's a big difference between an opinion and a fact.
And it's interesting on that too, Katie, because in the situation that I'm talking about, I'm kind of remembering now that they even referred to this website that was calling this particular doctor a quack. And I said, well, what kind of credibility does this website have? See, I was just coming back at him with the responsibility he was throwing at me. And what was funny was that I got this long list of links, to this particular website and what this was all about. And I said, if you spent half the time and passion into finding a solution for this person's problem, which could be high blood pressure, rather than trying to sell this website in a relationship that you don't have with this other person, we'd have a lot of people with lower blood pressure, I think. And again, you keep putting that responsibility back on them, but like you were saying, what we tend to do too often is we buy the BS, so to speak, claim it like it's ours, and then we react to it.
Yes. And what happens in a cyber community is it becomes not I say, she says, I said, he said, back and forth, which none of it's productive. And I always say to everything, you should do things that serve you. If this is not serving you, then you can't partake in it. And I'm trying to teach teenagers to do this, and teenagers are impulsive by nature. And I always say, and we've given them devices that they can be extremely impulsive with, and that is the biggest mistake. If we could go back, there should be timelines where kids should not get phones because kids are making mistakes, documenting their mistakes, and part of them are just normal growing up. This is normal part of growing up, making these mistakes. And they can't get it back. So the device itself and the age of teenagers, kids are getting it as young as 8 and 9 years old now, cell phones, that it just doesn't mix with their maturity. We have grown-ups that have great difficulty with this. All the conversations we were just talking about that you had, these are grown-ups who can't even manage this. And then we have kids who were so shocked when they do inappropriate things with it. I'm like, okay, well, we got to get some guidelines. We have to give some boundaries. And when I give my presentations to students and when people read my book and contact me, they say, oh, thank you. I just needed some rules in place because that's what we need. It can't be, we do live in a civil society, and it can't be hostile all the time. Right. It's just too toxic. Mm-hmm. And for kids, for me, it really upsets me that this is how they're growing up.
Now, it's interesting. You talked briefly about Facebook earlier, and, here's this phenomenon. It's it's kind of interesting.
There's
because
many phenomena.
As I like to say, this is the only way that I know I can directly talk to my son this day and age. Of course, he's in his mid-20s now because I could never get him when I would call. I'd leave messages, but he'd never call me back. Or, if he, or if I sent an email, it could be a month or two before I get an email back. But if I instant message him on Facebook, we're having a conversation.
He's got it. Yeah.
And that's okay with me. But here's what's funny about Facebook, because I really personally don't use Facebook all that much because to me that seems like a pseudo-reality, although there are some benefits to it. But the fact is, somebody will post something, they'll say something, and what you do is you get a lot of these votes of approval from all their alleged friends. And I find that funny because it's like watching a game show. It's a brand new car and the ooh and the ah, and I'm thinking, are these people really serious about spending their time this particular way here? But, let's talk about, for instance, you were talking about in your book about friends of friends. Let's talk about that one a little bit.
Well, I just say, we all know what a friend is, someone who's loyal and trustworthy, and that's what a friend is. And it takes work to have a friend. And our children allow hundreds, if not thousands, and even adults follow them and accept friend requests from these people. Now, for me, let's say my program, this has been very good for me because I'm sending a good message and people, friends of friends, are spreading it. But now it has become a billboard for people. How great my life is. I'm going to pretend my life is so great. I always say I don't understand why people post many things that they post, personal things. 25 years ago, I married my best friend. He lightens my life every day. Really? Really? I'm married 25 years. There's no way he lightens up your life for every day. It's just not possible. So, and number one, I don't understand why I'm reading your anniversary card. So why am I reading what you're writing to your husband?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that. So again, now we're diminishing a marriage because personal information that's shared is now public. I value my marriage. I value my children. I don't understand when people also, I say, boasting is not posting. When parents brag about their children, it gives your children an enormous amount of pressure. So today my child this, or my child the honor student, or my child made this team, or my child's looking at colleges. I mean, this is another one. They're looking at colleges. Oh, we went to Brown today. Oh, we went to Georgetown today. I'm like, hold your roll. Those are pretty hefty schools. There's a lot of smart kids out there. And now when someone says, oh, I know you really wanted Brown and Georgetown, House State College, I mean, this is a lot of pressure you're putting on your children. That it's hard enough that I think that the voyeuristic behavior and the narcissistic and your need for approval so everyone likes, that by grown-ups, by the time you're an adult, really shouldn't be. Kids value their peers' feedback. That's normal for a teenager. But now what's not normal, to the level our kids are doing this, because they want their peers to like it. Maybe they're not fitting in. Maybe it's this. Kids have lost real sense of pride, natural pride, because of the like button. These are real things. They swim. They're now a senior in high school. They post, made Nassau County's best swimmer or whatever, and they post it, and the mother asks them, what's the matter? It's like, well, I only got 4 likes. You've been working at this since you're 7 years old, and you finally got that grand prize that you wanted. And because you didn't get the likes, that natural moment of pride is gone. That's what motivates us. I did this, now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to set this goal, and I'm going to do this because you did it yourself. That's self-pride. This button really weighs heavy on today's generation and skews their sense of self.
Right, I agree with you. And, it's really interesting, too, because I remember there's a documentary called Generation Like that's about that very thing. It's about, children growing up and how that becomes really important to them. And, in fact, there was one girl who was featured.
I got to look that up.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating documentary. I believe it was done by PBS. And it was interesting because here was this girl who basically was I'm trying to think of that vampire movie that was
Oh, yeah.
4 or 5, Breaking Dawn, I can't remember what
yes.
it's called. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Now, here's this girl basically spending almost 24 hours a day in her room posting stuff about this movie. And I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of lost a little bit, but are you out of your mind? In fact, why are the parents allowing this to happen in the first place?
There's so many levels of, we don't even know what the outcome of these devices are going to do. And for me, as a former teacher, there is nothing I care more than how my kids felt about themselves, because that's what makes a successful adult. Building confidence, making sure whatever your level of success is, it doesn't have to be a 99. It could be a 75. It doesn't matter. But what matters is that you feel a good, positive sense of who you are and that you're important. And when you're important to your family and your close friends. And that value, that core value, is being lost with that like button, because you think everyone's supposed to care about you. Everyone is not supposed to care about you. I can't listen to my neighbor's nieces play the violin on YouTube without cringing. I could barely listen to my own children play an instrument without pretending to really be excited for them when they're learning. It's hard enough. Like, wow, good. Oh, my God, my ears, someone's killing me. So I think that when our kids don't get that validation, it truly, truly makes them feel bad. You can watch someone's mood in a second change by a post. My daughter could walk in the house all happy, ding, ding, ding. She reads something, and now she's anxious. And now she's upset because they're overly connected. They know what every single one of their peers are doing at every second. And what I'm not invited to, and what someone did this, and someone's, what people don't know won't hurt them. I wasn't invited to everything.
Right.
It wasn't thrown in my face all the time.
Here's what's interesting here, Katie. I just decided, because we're talking about it, it's on our mind, to go ahead and go on my Facebook page here, and here we've got a post. This is, believe it or not, this is the first post I'm seeing right here. It's #compliment challenge. Here's what the sentence is right after it. Comment your name, and I'll tell you one thing I like about you.
It's craziness. I'm sorry, I had no other words. But
there aren't any for me either.
Again, narcissistic, and you're putting yourself out there for haters.
Right.
But kids, there was, when this social media first started, there was a hot list and a not list. And one of the schools, this was at least 3 years ago, and this was a middle schooler, where this is what happened. There were boys, which since the dawn of time, I'm sure boys did this and said, oh, who's pretty, who's not, who's whatever, and they maybe wrote it on a piece of loose leaf. And, okay, maybe they shared it with their friends. But now it's being publicly shared. And you're telling a girl that she's not on the hot list is pretty hard for a teenage girl to handle, right? So now the group of girls are telling me this story after one of the presentations. She goes, and they made this list, and now my friends won't talk to me because the boys put me on the hot list. Now this girl and the other girl, cute as buttons, says, yeah, and then they put me on the not so hot list. So now her friends are mad at her because boys put her on a hot list, and now the other girl feels horrible because she's on the bad list. I'm like, and it's so public.
That's the other thing to be aware of, too, that although this Facebook was originally created to basically have private communities that like to share, mutual interest, is, well, Mark says, so what? I'm going to make sure everybody knows about it, even though I lured you in with the illusion that it's supposed to be this. And I remember it was some years back where you've seen, for instance, the story of the teacher getting fired because they were on vacation and they were hoisting a pint in Ireland, and that lost them their job.
Oh, I could tell you stories. It gets pretty
ugly sometimes.
Oh, I could tell you stories of one story of a JV football team were coming back from a football game, and they played really poorly, and the coach was not happy. And apparently the story says it was a long ride home, and the boys peed in a water bottle. And one of the boys decided to throw the water bottle out the window, and of course the coach got very angry. So he started yelling and screaming and cursing, and one of the kids on the bus recorded the coach, his voice. And this is a prestigious high school, and the coach was asked to step down, and the entire team went after the kid and said, you got coach fired. Now, this is a ninth grade boy who was not trying to get his coach fired. He thought it was funny that his coach lost his mind and was cursing. Okay? So he sent it to his friends as a joke, and it got in the wrong hands. And the coach was coaching there for 20-some-odd years. Alumni Association went crazy. Everyone was unhappy, and this kid was blackballed by all of his friends. Again, privacy. You don't have the right to record someone without their permission. No one wins. No one wins. Because it's just a line of privacy. You don't have the right to take my picture and tag me and tell people where I am.
Right.
I mean, that's another thing that's happened with me personally. I don't put my picture out there. I don't put pictures of my children. I don't do that. I try to put inspirational quotes up, things that motivate me, things that I find humorous. That's what I try to create in a cyber community. I don't put my personal whereabouts. So I went to a holiday party. I told my one friend I couldn't go to hers because I got invited to another. I told her a little white lie. I said, I can't go. I'm going to my husband's company Christmas party. I didn't want to insult her, hurt her feelings. I thought I did the right thing. Well, I go to another party. They don't even know each other. Two totally different things. And she tags me. This woman tags me. Just happened to be at the party, had a great time at this blah, 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 and puts my name. My high school friend saw it. You hurt my friend, not me. You know, you don't have the right to tell people where I am and what I'm doing. I'm not paparazzi. I'm not, I'm not that important for you to, share it. Mm-hmm. But this time and time again, there are no boundaries. I value my privacy. If you want to show pictures of your dinner and everything you're doing every day, that's your choice. Don't push me into your world.
Now, I was visiting your website, which is don'tpresssend.org, and I really liked what you had on there, and I think I'd like to kind of go over these as we come to the end of our show here.
Sure.
You call it digital detox.
Yes.
Let's talk about what that is, because I couldn't agree with you more that there should be limits on how long your children, if they're living under your roof, how long they should be allowed to be on the computer, when they should be able to have a cell phone. I remember, there was a time when we just had regular telephones. You were allowed to talk on the telephone for 5 minutes, and that was about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember that. And my parents, if you wanted privacy, you'd have to go into the closet with the long wire. You'd take the long wire, and I'd go into the closet and talk.
Right.
That was
but
the
even then, you had
privacy.
5 minutes, and that was it. So.
Yeah. Well, I just say like anything else, just like good nutrition, just like anything else, we really have to, everything with moderation. So, again, we don't want to paint the picture that technology is bad, because I don't think all of these sites or any of these things started out to harm or to be hurtful, but because of the emotional disconnect of the screen, it is lending itself to that. So we definitely have to find a place. So I suggested a few things in my book about the digital detox, in that we need to, and that's what mindfulness really is just paying attention on purpose, being right here, right now. And you can't do that when you have so much distraction. Something actually dinging and buzzing and vibrating in your pocket is distracting. So we have to set a time that maybe all devices are docked in your house. 9 o'clock, all devices are docked, everyone's. We have to watch TV together, not have our children in one room, we're in another room. We have to, I'd say, make sure they don't use their cell phones as alarm clocks, because it creates an unhealthy attachment. Some of them are putting these devices under their pillows. We still don't even know the rays that are coming from these devices. You can't have your brain right there. And we all know Samsung phones just blow up out of nowhere. Pillows have caught on fire. So I also don't want them to use it as an alarm clock, because the minute they get older, like in high school, kids are texting at 1, 2 in the morning. So we got to separate ourselves. I would say withdrawal Wednesdays. I said avoid the temptation, not going online, not doing Facebook. Just spend a day not doing it, only using it for what you have to. Make a phone call, important text, looking up stuff for homework or whatever you need to do. Like need. There has to be a need, because it's truly an addiction. We know that. I have gone to schools. 11th graders are already in rehab centers for this stuff. Some of them are from it was gambling already. 11th graders.
Right.
Because they were left to their own devices. They're like, oh, this is cool. This is fun. And they're doing it. I'm like, whoa. Someone was saying that the average age, now I do not know this, so do not quote me on a fact, average age of kids seeing porn is 10 years old.
Wow.
And I hope to God that's not true, but think about that. When my son first had his phone was in 6th grade, and it was one of those phones where you had to press 5 times for the letter A or whatever it was. And then the next upgrade when he was in 7th or 8th grade was the iPhone. And he said, can I get the iPhone? I said, I'm not paying for the iPhone. And he said, no, it's a free upgrade. I'm like, yeah, sure. And I just gave him access to the world without even blinking.
Right. As though they really need to have that.
Because I didn't think. I'm like, sure, it's free. Okay, no problem. But I just gave him access to everything. And when you think we did that, when you first got your computers, you were told, put it in the kitchen. Make sure you know what your kids are on. I did that. It's in my kitchen. I always know what they're on. And yet we give them devices. They're in their rooms. The door's closed. God knows what they're on.
Right, right.
So these are the boundaries and the detoxing we have to do. It's got to stay out of their rooms.
I agree with you 100%. This is always such a lively discussion to have here. Again, the book is Don't Press Send. Our guest joining us, Katie Schumacher. For our listeners, could you give out a website where they can find out more about what your movement is and what this is all about?
Sure. The movement is called the Don't Press Send campaign, and it's giving guidelines and strategies for kind and careful online communication, and it's don'tpresssend.org.
And I like your number one rule, and I totally agree with this, and that is don't say or do anything that you wouldn't do if you were face-to-face with somebody.
Yes.
Act as if everything you're doing that you're literally face-to-face with somebody because, after all, you're the one responsible for putting that out there, in the first place.
And I always say the empathetic skills, I say always ask yourself before you press that button, how would this make me feel if I received it? You have to do that.
Agreed. Katie, thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for tuning in. You can discover more by visiting us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. Sign up for our weekly e-newsletter and stay up to date with what's going on in the Beyond 50 community as well as upcoming programs. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.